Hey guys, and welcome back to another book video with the two favorite book nerds, Amy
and Kelly.
I can't talk today. Today we are doing our August reading wrap-up. And I'm excited about it because I think we both had a pretty decent reading month as far as especially quantity.
Yes.
We'll find out about quality here soon, but
we'll
quantity-wise, we nailed it.
Yay.
Woo! It's about time we have some big reading.
Yeah, we've been slacking a little.
Yeah, making up for lost time, I guess, now. But.
Okay.
Alrighty, I think I kicked it off first last time. So
you did?
Start. I think so.
Okay. I thought I did.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
Alright, so I read 7 books in August. I read, well, first of all, you have it. Our book club book for July I finished in August, which is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson, which I gave 4 stars to. And then I read Foul Days by Genoveva Dimova, which I gave 3 stars to. I read The Undermining of Twyla and Frank, which I gave 4 stars. I read A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, which I gave 4 stars. And then I finished the trilogy that started with A Justice of Kings. So I read A Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan, and also The Trials of Empire, which are 2 and 3 respectively. And I gave A Tyranny of Faith 5 stars and Trials of Empire 4 stars. So my average was 4 stars for the month.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
I know. Some chunkier books.
Yes. Yeah.
There.
And you both of them in 1 month.
Yeah.
My gosh.
I know.
My God. Well, I feel like a slacker.
Well, I read Justice of Kings like probably a year ago. And reading through the second book, I realized that I'd forgotten so much. So I did not go back and reread the first one, but I thought I'm going to read the third one right away.
Yeah.
So that is what I did.
Okay, so I also read 7 books in August.
Yay!
Woo! Look at us go. I don't have all the physical copies, so I need to make sure I have it all here.
Oh, I forgot a book.
Oh, what'd you forget?
I forgot the book I don't have a copy of. So yeah, I only said 6. Duh.
Oh, you did. I didn't even math. I was not mathing.
It was like when you started saying you didn't have physical. I went, wait a minute. I forgot a book, and that was The Fire in the Glass by Jacqueline Benson, and I gave that one 4 stars as well. So that's how the average works out if you were actually trying to math the math.
Yeah.
And it was not coming out right.
Good.
Sorry.
It happens. It's been a week.
It has been a week.
Okay, so my 7 books are Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And then I read The Chain by Adrian McKenty. This one's been on my TBR, like highly anticipated for so long. I gave it 2 stars. It was a sad, sad day.
I saw your TikTok about that. It was sad.
It was very sad. And then I read Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, and this one I gave 3 stars to. Didn't quite live up to the packaging, but it still was decent. And then I read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, which I gave 4 stars. And then I went into a deep dive of Stephen Graham Jones. I went down the rabbit hole.
I saw that too, following you on Goodreads. I'm like, dang!
Yep, I got hooked into it. So I read I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. I gave that one 3 stars. Then I read Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, a novella, and I gave that one 3 stars. And then I read Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones, and I gave this one 4 stars.
Oh.
Yeah, so that brings my average rating to 3.4 stars for August.
Yeah.
Not bad. Stinking, The Chain brought it down. A 2-star.
It did. Better than the, what, 2-star rating you had, was that last month?
It might.
I think it was last
Yeah,
month.
2.7.
Yeah, better than that.
Yeah, a lot better. I'll take it.
Okay, so pages. I read a total of 2,984 pages for an average of 426. And my longest book was Tyranny of Faith, which was 546 pages. And my shortest one was A Sorceress Comes to Call, which was 321. So again, T. Kingfisher's the shortest, but it's a longer book than she's had out for a while. So.
Yeah. Well, it's about the same as what, like A House with Good Bones? That was one new one.
I don't remember. I know, like, What Moves the Dead, those were like only a couple hundred pages.
Those are like novella length.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Okay. I read a total of 2,230 pages for an average book length of 319. My longest book was Don't Fear the Reaper at 400 and something pages. I didn't write it down. And the shortest was Night of the Mannequins at 144 pages, I believe.
Genres. I read one mystery, one romantasy, and all the rest were fantasy. So the other 5 were fantasy.
Nice. Alright. I read one mystery, 2 thriller, and 4 horror books.
We were playing to our strengths.
We were. We definitely were.
Authors. So, let me see. I have read Richard Swan before. I have read Megan Bannon before. T. Kingfisher before. And then, of course, I read multiples of Richard Swan this month. And that left me with Genoveva Demova, Jacqueline Benson, and Benjamin Stevenson, which were all new to me, and I will read everybody again.
I had 2 authors I've read from before, Stephen Graham Jones and Paul Tremblay, and then 3 authors that were new to me, and that was Adrian McKenty, Geneva Rose, and Benjamin Stevenson. And I will read from all of them again. Yes. I don't want to quite knock Adrian McKenty out
Just yet.
just yet.
So there's the stats. Books. Start with the one I don't have, which is The Fire in the Glass by Jacqueline Benson. This is set in turn of the century, like pre-World War I London. And the main character is Lily Albright, and she has a gift that she gets visions of the future. But it always seems to be like bad things. Somebody's gonna get killed or something like that. And she used to, in her younger years, try and like warn people, try and stop it, and it never worked. And so she kind of just withdrew and quit trying, did things to try and discourage having the visions in the first place, and just kind of isolated herself. But the most recent vision she had is of someone that she cares about being killed by what seems to be a serial killer stalking London. So,
You don't say.
I don't say. So Lily decides that she has to try and do something, even though she thinks it's going to be a complete failure. But along this time, she meets Lord Strangford. I always read it Strangeford, so Lord Strangford, who seems to have some weird abilities of his own, and through him and another friend of hers, which she did not know had real psychic powers, she meets another group of people who the leader calls them the Charismatics, and they all have special abilities, and they're all a little bit different. So, like this book, I saw it compared to like the X-Men of pre-war London, and I remember when I was reading it, I kept thinking of A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So I think like X-Men with A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is kind of, it's not really steampunk, but it's got a steampunk feel to it. So anyway, that was it. I did end up giving it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because I think there were some plot holes. That there's like 4 books in this series. So I'm thinking that will go on. It's the Charismatics of London series. So that might help out. And the main character kind of like, she was not my favorite person. I thought she was a really interesting character, but she whined a lot. And this whole like, oh, I just can't ever do anything. I don't want to use my powers. Went on and 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 on. But she has a really interesting like backstory. Like Jacqueline Benson built a really good character because Lily is the illegitimate daughter of an actress and an earl of England. So it's a really interesting dynamic that she's kind of a lady, but she's not a lady. So it's really interesting. So if I could have like gotten over her whining so much, or like this book was also 498 pages long. So if we cut it and cut the whining, I mean, I get why she didn't want to use her powers, but at some point in 500 pages, you gotta like let that go, sister. So anyway, I think it's a really interesting world. I'm planning on reading the rest of the books, at least the next one, in case it does. So that was that one. And I won't talk about our book club book. We have a whole video on that. You can go listen to us rave about it over there. The next one. Okay, so A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher was another 4-star. This is supposed to be a dark retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale. I don't think so. I mean, it has some similar elements, and some similar themes, but they're so generic that it could be like the themes of any fairy tale. So, I don't know. Whatever. But, on its own, it was pretty good. It has the same issues that a lot of her most recent books have had, where they're really slow, and then all of a sudden, bam, at the end, there's all of this action. But at least in this book, it felt like the slowness was somewhat deserved, because part of it is, well, there's two point of view characters. There's Cordelia, and Cordelia's mother is a sorceress who is basically out to catch a man to financially provide for them and then give opportunities for Cordelia to marry rich.
She's looking for a sugar daddy.
Yeah, she's a gold digger. She's a sorceress gold digger, pretty much. But she has had many benefactors over Cordelia's young 14-year-old life. And all of her benefactors have met with bad ends when they tried to kick her to the curb. So she is a dangerous sorceress gold digger. So at the end of one of these affairs, when basically Cordelia's mother caused her lover to, she like manipulated his mind and made him kill his family. So that was her revenge for him dumping her. And after that, Cordelia and her mother fled the city, or fled their little town and went to the city, where she basically already had another guy on the hook. And that's where we meet our second point of view character, which is Hester, who is the spinster sister of the man that Cordelia's mother's trying to marry. So like the first half of this book is all about her mother manipulating all of this stuff into getting this guy to fall in love with her and marry her, and the things that her mother does in order to protect them and get what she wants, like murdering people with her mind. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, you know, from Hester's point of view, Hester is like a 50-some-year-old woman. So there's a lot of age and experience there. She's really feisty and sassy, and I really liked her a lot. I think Cordelia was an interesting character because at 14, she has been manipulated and abused by her mom. And to see the kind of character that resulted in was really interesting to see too. And how really this household that they basically move into, how kind of the other characters see Cordelia and how it manifests to them. So you're not just in Cordelia's mind the whole time, you can see it from the outside too. And I thought that was really interesting. So still a very good book. Her writing, as usual, is exceptional. So there you go. Then, okay, The Undermining of Twyla and Frank, which is the second book in, I don't know that there's a name to this series. Let me see. No. So it's the second book after the Undermining of Heart and Mercy. Thank you. There is a third book out. The cover's been released. So it's not out, sorry. It's coming.
It's on the way.
It's on the way.
Next year,
so,
probably.
Yeah. So in this world, in this corner of the world, I should say, there is a bunch of islands, little island settlements. And on this particular island that Heart and Mercy, this whole series is surrounding, there is an area called Tanria. And that is where, when the new gods and the old gods went to war, the new gods imprisoned the old gods in this area. So it's surrounded by this impenetrable mist, and this was their prison. So a lot of weird things happened in there while the old gods were like trying to entertain themselves and stuff, until finally the old gods gave up the ghost and became the stars in the sky. That's the lore of the world. So in Heart and Mercy, there were basically zombies that came out of Tanria, and the marshal's job was to kill the zombies. Well, at the end of that book, things were taken care of, and so we start out this book kind of in the new world. There's no more real danger to being a marshal anymore. And Frank and Twyla are best friends who have lived next door to each other forever. Their families had known each other forever. Frank is divorced, Twyla is widowed. And they've been friends, like I said, for decades. And about 8 years before this book started, Frank convinced Twyla to join the Marshals and be his partner. So they are partners in the Marshals and good friends too. So, but they're now bored with their job. But then bodies start turning up again. So they, of course, are sent into Tanria and start investigating. And it, of course, evolves from there. So this book is much lighter than Heart and Mercy is. Heart and Mercy had kind of a dark edge to it, because, I mean, zombies. There are bodies dropping everywhere. So there was really a dark tone to this. This is much lighter. This is much more rom-com, even campy. So it's a very different tone than Heart and Mercy. And of course, Frank and Twyla are older. They're actually like within, I think it's 10 years or so from being able to retire. Like Frank could retire, but Twyla has more years to put in before she can get her pension or whatever. And they have this plan that when they retire, they're going to move to the coast and they're going to open this, they call them equimares, which I still don't quite understand what they are. But they're going to open an equimare farm together and have a bed and breakfast. So there you go. That's their retirement plan. They're close to that age, so late 50s-ish. So I still gave this 4 stars, I think.
That's what you said.
I still gave it 4 stars, yeah. Because the friendship between Frank and Twyla is really good. I did not get the evolution of their romance, though.
Oh.
I didn't get it. I mean, I got it, sort of, but the way it played out, I guess, I mean, I can understand them being in love, but the way it played out, and like how, there were some leaps made there. With like no hints. All of a sudden, we were from this stage to this stage, and it was like, what? I knew it was going to happen, because that's the title of the book, but, I don't know. There are dragons in this book, which that was fun. That was fun, yeah. So that, and, okay, so when I talked about this book before, I had the idea that Frank and Twyla were already married in Heart and Mercy, and that Twyla was their boss. That is not correct, obviously. I was thinking of, oh, her last name is McIntyre. I can't remember her first name. That's her, their boss is a woman, but I couldn't think of it. But anyway, obviously not. So yeah, there's that. There's, I don't know, I'm rambling at this point. The ending, I did not like the ending. It went over the top campy.
Oh no.
For me, it did, anyway. Oh, I know what it was that also definitely brought it down a star, was that there's very much, if you read any of, like, middle-aged women books, like, they call them midlife magic books a lot, paranormal magic books, they can be a lot of fun because you get, you know, an older woman who doesn't really give two shits anymore and gets pretty sassy with people. So that was the setup here. So, like, you really got the sense that Twyla's children were not really very nice to her. Because, not that they were mean, but they just didn't consider her. They dumped their kids on her all the time and just really took advantage of her. And so there was a lot of that kind of searching through, her undoing that kind of conditioning for her whole life. So this kind of soul searching through there, it lasted way too long. And also there was a whole lot of mom power, yay moms kind of sense, which is fine to a certain extent, but it got old really quick. And then it was like the resolution with her family, it didn't happen. It was kind of like the relationship with her and Frank. It was like they're friends and then they're lovers, and you really didn't get the whole in between. Anyway, I just don't think it was as smooth with the relationships. But Hart's old partner, so I thought that was Frank. It was not Frank. Hart's old partner was Penrose Duckers. Duckers was Hart's partner.
Yeah, you said old partner, so I thought you meant the older guy.
Oh, no.
Gotcha.
His most recent partner. Yeah. Before he left the Marshalls. So, it's Penrose Duckers. Okay, so I remember him being kind of funny in Heart and Mercy, but it was like he was the brand new recruit, the rookie. So he didn't have a big part. He has a huge part in this, and he is hilarious. Just hilarious. There is a professor from a university that comes to study something in Tanria, and he's got an interesting last name, and every time Duckers is talking to him, he does a play on his last name, and it's so funny. And there was one that caught me completely off guard, and I laughed and laughed. Duckers does also go too far, over the top, but for the most part, he was so entertaining through this book. So that really did kind of save a lot of that for me. But still enjoyed it. Still plan on reading the last one, definitely, but just not quite as perfect as the first one was. Still good though. Foul Days by Genoveva Domova. This is about Kosara, who is a witch in the city of Chernograd. And they have once a year, they call them the Foul Days, obviously. So starting on New Year's Eve and going for 12 days afterwards, it's like the monsters escape from whatever prison they've been in, and they just run rampant in the city for 12 days. And those are the Foul Days. And those are the times when the witches have their most busy season. They're doing wards around people's houses and creating charms, while everybody just kind of hunkers down and waits for it to pass. So all of the monsters are based on Slavic folklore. So you've got, oh Lord, some of them I can't even pronounce, but like Rusalkas and Upirs, which are vampires basically. Well, they are. They're the Slavic version of vampires. But anyway, all of that based in Slavic folklore. So that was really interesting about this book. Witches' powers come from their shadows. So a witch without a shadow is powerless. And so during the Foul Days, when Kosova is kind of hunkering down with everybody else, she gets tricked into giving away her shadow. So she starts on this big journey to find this guy that tricked her, and get her shadow back so she can get her powers back. Well, around the city of Chernograd, there is a wall, the wall. And nobody from Chernograd is allowed outside of this wall. This wall is actually kind of living. Like, it will attack people who try and cross the wall. So on the other side of the wall is Belograd, which is a much lighter, much more affluent city. And they don't have to deal with monsters. Monsters only attack Chernograd. So of course there's like this thriving smuggler operation with people, you know, trying to get out. But anyway, so she has to cross the wall and to go try and find this guy down. Then she has to cross back over the wall, and anyway, it's all kind of crazy. But there is one particular monster that Kosara really, really fears, and that is the Zme. And she has a past with the Zme, at which you find out and can find out that relationship. And to get her shadow back, she kind of has to go up against him. So she has to revisit her past and go up against the monster that really haunts her. And there you go.
Thanks.
So that's the story. I gave this 3 stars. I really, really liked the world here. That was so good. But
Oh no.
there were, I don't know, there was just some, like, dumb things. Really dumb things, like, why did you do that? Kind of dumb stuff. It really, really made no sense at all. But there was a bit of like a mystery involved, so that was kind of okay. It wasn't very clever, but it was interesting, and it did allow Kosara to meet up with this other guy named Asen, who is a detective in Belograd that she then has to smuggle back into Chernograd to kind of start solving this mystery, this murder mystery. So there's that element in there, and of course Kosara trying to track down her shadow and get her magic back. Plus, she has, well, they both have this kind of past that comes out, but the magic part of it was cool, the world part of it was really good. It was just like, Kosara just did stupid things. Just really stupid things. Like the way she got tricked into losing her shadow in the first place was just kind of dumb. I don't know, it was just kind of dumb. But you know, you just can get past that and go on. So 3 stars. 3 stars for the world and the magic and all of that, and for kind of some of the relationships and stuff. Plus it was another one of a woe is me kind of thing that went on for a bit too long. She had reason to do woe is me, but not for the extent that she did it. So I don't know. It was still enjoyable. This is a duology, and I will read the next one because the world is really cool. Okay, so that leaves me with my last 2, right? Yeah. Books 2 and 3 of the Empire of the Wolf trilogy, starting with the Justice of Kings, which, if you've watched this at all, I talk about constantly. So, number 2 was The Tyranny of Faith. Number 3, The Trials of Empire. It follows right in a line, so this one picks up right where Justice of Kings left off. In this world, the Empire's getting ready to fall. So you kind of know from the get-go that whatever's going on, the Empire's probably not going to be saved. This is it says it all the time, the beginning of the end. Mm. So you kind of know that already, so there's really no tension or, you know, suspense in are they going to save the Empire or not. No. They're not. It's more of a what's going to be left when the Empire falls kind of thing, which is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. There's a lot of kind of philosophical discussions in here about power and use of power and rights of people and what they should be allowed. Anyway, it's really, really good. There's, again, as I always say with Justice of Kings, there's so much going on. There's, once again, so much going on. In Tyranny of Faith, they have to travel back to Sova, the capital city of the Empire, because they now know that their main threat, which is this priest who has kind of overstepped his bounds and gone to the dark side. So he's the one that is the main threat, and he's got to be stopped, and they've got to convince the emperor that it's a real major threat. And in the meantime, the emperor is dealing with rebellion on the eastern side of his empire, and there's also rebellion and oh, I forgot the word, within there's people like trying to conspire and bring down the empire from within. So he's got all these threats outside, he's got threats inside, and he just doesn't take Conrad von Valt very seriously. So,
Big mistake.
Conrad von Valt, who's the justice, Helena Sadanka is his assistant, and he also has 2 knights in his service, Dubine Bressinger and Sir Radomir. And so that is kind of the 4 of them are trying to stop Kleber and trying to convince the emperor what's going on. In the middle of all of this, the emperor's grandson gets kidnapped and taken hostage in a ransom demand. And so the emperor then turns his focus completely inward, completely ignores what they're telling him, and charges Sir Conrad von Valt, the justice, to find his grandson and bring him back. So there's a little bit of a mystery in this as well, in the backdrop of all of this political upheaval going on. I still gave this 5 stars, but I did not like it as well as I liked the first one. And I think I liked the first one because the murder mystery was such a huge part of the book. And the mystery in this one was not the biggest part of the book. They only spent really a small time in the capital city before they ended up going elsewhere and trying to confront this priest that went rogue and trying to figure out how to stop him. But yeah, there's a lot of action in it though. Tons of action, and they travel to the southern frontier and try and infiltrate this guy's operations. So there's all kinds of like tension and suspense and sneakiness and all of that. So it is really good. So then Trials of Empire, which is the finale. Did not like this one as well. I gave it 4 stars. I'm not gonna say I didn't like it. Picks up exactly where, again, that one left off. Things are just in shambles, and they have to go around trying to find allies to stop this priest. They figured out what his plan is, and it's all going to converge back again in the capital city of Sova, and they have to go back and figure out what's going on. And basically they get back there and they find it in complete disarray. There has been a rebellion while they were out, and the emperor is doing nothing to stop it. 2 of his 3 sons have been killed. One of his sons was married to a foreigner in kind of like making an alliance kind of marriage. Found out that she like betrayed him and took the son and ran away, and he's just like having a breakdown. And so Sir Conrad comes in and basically takes over the empire.
Nice.
So they can squash the rebellion, deal with Kleber, and it all of course comes in and blows up, and you get your ending, which is okay. Is good. Is okay. But what dropped this one a star for me is that a lot of the time is spent in the city fortifying defenses and gathering intelligence and waiting for their allies to arrive. And so there's a lot of, when you have a setup like that, there's a lot of thinking that goes on with this. And I mean, I won't say it's bad thinking. It's not. It just went on forever. The relationship between Helena and Sir Conrad, you can see it devolving as he does more things that she disapproves of in the name of saving the empire, and she's kind of sticking to their original values. So there's a lot of conflict between the 2 of them, and their relationship kind of, she always looked up to him as kind of like, you know, an ideal to live up to, and she's finding out that she put him on too high of a pedestal. And so she's dealing with that. There's also, this doesn't just take place in the physical world, but it takes place on the spiritual plane as well. It's called the Holy Dimensions. And Helena is kind of the bridge between those, because she's, for some reason, sucked in over there. And so there's a lot of her mental state devolving. and it's all really interesting. There's just too much of it. Just too much of it. And I don't know that the ending was as big as I expected it to be. Kind of. And it was also a little open because we know from the very first book that this story is being told by Helena as an older woman looking back on her life, kind of writing a memoir kind of thing. So you kind of have this expectation for it to wrap up and find out where Helena ended up and what happened to Sir Conrad. And you don't. It's just kind of left like, and that was the end of that.
That's not okay.
So I really didn't, and I don't mind open endings all that much, but I kind of, after 3 500+ page books, I wanted to know where Helena was. What
You earned that knowledge.
I earned that knowledge. Anyway, as far as I know, this is the end, but maybe he's got more books in this world. So I don't know, but still really good. I mean, the man writes amazing, and the complexity of his plot and the complexity of the world, it's really amazing. And there's a map in the front, but he writes his world so well, and he has such a way of talking about it like it's real that after a while I didn't even have to like refer to the map very often. I knew where these places were because he was just so good at including those kind of things in his world building. So it was still really, really good. Still highly recommend the whole trilogy. It's just great. But there you go. That was long, sorry.
We don't expect anything less from you, Kelly.
I know. She'll edit me out anyway, so we'll be good.
Probably not.
You should.
So, I'm also not going to talk about this one because we have our book club live stream that you can go and watch and hear all of our thoughts on that. Next, I read The Chain by Adrian McKinty. So this book is about a woman whose daughter gets kidnapped, and in order for her to get her daughter back, she has to then go and kidnap another kid, and then that family has to kidnap another kid before her daughter can be released. They have to like keep the chain going, all of that. And I thought that this was going to be really, really good because it's always on like the top horror books, top thriller books, and all of these things. But it was boring. It started off really strong, honestly. It did start off pretty strong, but then as I kept reading, it just was like, oh wait, something's happening. No, wait, nothing,
no.
Nothing is happening. Never mind. Let me just keep going. And like, there wasn't a whole lot of progress. There was a lot of whining from the mom of the girl that got kidnapped, like the first one. Which, I mean, granted, you don't want to have like, if you're like an upstanding citizen, a good person, kidnapping someone else's child would be hard to do. And she's dealing with also finding out that she had cancer, and so the doctor called and apparently it came back. So she had like all of this that was going on, but there was just kind of like a lot of whining that I didn't appreciate. I mean, I understand that you're not going to want to do it, but also at the same time, like, stop freaking out and start forming a plan. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, like, yes, I know you don't want to have to do it. I know you have a lot going on right now, not just your daughter being kidnapped, but all your health stuff too, but like, girl, get it together and let's go get your daughter back. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
There was that. And then we had a POV from her daughter as well in this book, and I don't remember how old her daughter is, like 10, 11 maybe. And the way that she was like thinking in her POV was like so far above that age, like in my opinion, like there's no way. And then also like the things that she was, it just didn't make any sense. I'm like, she's just like, I see a wrench underneath of the heater. I'm going to, as an 11-year-old child, pull this heater off from the wall, and I'm gonna get that wrench, and then I'm gonna use it when they come, because this is how I'm gonna escape. I've seen him have the gun every time. I'm like, stop. Like, you are making zero sense right now. So I didn't like that. And then when the daughter got released later, and it's a lot. And I don't want to go into spoilers, and that might have been a spoiler right there, but like, she was just a turd McNugget later in the book, and I didn't want to read that. And then the book wrapped up, like, it wrapped up about here. And then the rest of this was the backstory on the chain. The stuff that should have been interspersed throughout the book previously. And it was literally just like a backstory on all of that. And then like people trying to take down the chain. And I'm like, this is, why weren't we having this happen throughout the book, you know? Because like at that point I didn't care anymore. It's like, there is nothing happening. Like, there's no tension. Yeah, it's like there's no tension, there's no nothing. It's just like, here we are. So, yeah. No thank you to that one. It was a letdown, for sure. Then I pulled out Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. And this is about, this girl has, her mom passes away. And her other two siblings come back for the funeral and all of that. They all reunite back in their hometown and all of that. And they start to uncover a lot of secrets that her mom had been keeping while she was alive. That shocked all of them. It didn't shock me at all. I saw them all coming. But that was like my main complaint about this book, is that it was very predictable. Like, it was so bad. So badly predictable. Like, there wasn't any, this was supposed to be a thriller, and it starts off strong because it's like, it starts off with the mom's like dying words. Her last breath is like, don't trust. And I'm like, don't trust who? And I'm like in it. Like, I'm excited. I'm like, I'm with the main character right there, because she's also like, what are you talking about, Mom? Don't trust Dad, don't trust whatever. Like, there's a serial killer involved, there's a whole lot of things, bodies. And I'm like, this is great. This is going great. And then as I'm going, I'm like, oh my god, I can already see where it is headed. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. There wasn't really a moment where I was just like, what? And the big reveal was like, duh. Duh. I called that on page 20, honey. Like, my god. But, yeah. I also feel like this was written for a YA audience. Like, just, I don't know, the way that the writing style was and stuff. Like, I had to Google whether or not this was a YA book. It was that strong of a feel to me. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just like the way that they spoke, mainly the characters and the dialogue and everything. It also really didn't have that much action. Like, all of the action came at the end, and then the middle, it was just family drama in between. Yeah. So, like, that also took me out of the book as well. So, that was sad. The ending did pick up a little bit, but it just wasn't. It was fine. 3 stars. It was fine. Okay, then we have Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, which was his new release from this year, and I was very excited to read it, and I'm glad that I did, because it was a 4-star read. It was so good. So this book is about a group of young wannabe filmmakers who decide that they're going to make a horror movie called Horror Movie. And the movie ends up kind of being a little cursed. So they filmed, apparently, like, one of the filmmakers found this mask in this abandoned school, and they decided to use that mask as like the main thing of their like killer or villain in their movie. And I think this mask was actually cursed, because some weird things happened on the set of this film set, like whatever. And they ended up filming the whole movie, and then because of some weird accidents and things that happened and all of whatever else, they didn't release the movie. They only released 3 scenes of this movie, and unfortunately, only one of the people involved in the movie actually lived to enjoy the fame that this movie got. And he was the one that played the villain in the movie. And I don't know, it was wild. It was wild. It gave me like total Hell House vibes, the movie Hell House, which is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And it was just that kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the, I don't know how to describe it. Just like, you know, like almost like a found footage type of a feel to it. Like it's not quite campy, but just like looks like a underproduced but still well produced, like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just had that vibe to it, and the whole